Jendi's here from Status Coup, and I'm a fan of bookstores. I have a bit of a book addiction, so I was walking around DC today, heading home from my latest reporting trip, and I came across your incredible bookstore. Tell folks your name and the name of the store that we're in right now.
I'm Bobby Nelson, the proprietor here at Reiter's Bookstore, Reiter Scientific and Professional Books. This is our 89th year of business. I usually try to squeeze that in. And family owned, multi-generational.
That's incredible. So that puts us, in the 1930s?
Well, actually, my father came here to law school, and after law school, actually never left work. He worked in the bookstore, and actually never left the bookstore, and worked his career here. And him and my mother bought the bookstore from Mr. Reiter, who actually, my father actually worked for the gentleman, and the name has escaped me, the gentleman that owned the store before Mr. Reiter's. There were actually two owners before that, and the store itself, originally in the 30s, was a spin-off from GW. They privatized their store, and it became an independent college store. And at one point, it was actually a law bookstore. And it wasn't to Mr. Reiter and my father where it really blossomed into the physical sciences and math and physics. And basically, we were a defense contractor that rode the wave of that. The information in the books. Very few bookstores would have that stuff, and traditionally half of our sales would be directly to the government and to the prime contractors, and mostly defense based. And we had the various revolutions, that impacted all of retail, it sort of started with books, but there were many years that most of the stuff that we had this is where you got it. It was just unavailable anywhere else. So traditionally our biggest competitor was in fact the publisher, which was an odd arrangement. But we were very lucky, and we were able to anchor the store. We had a large medical bookstore was part of it, and we had the multiple hospitals, and for many years, medicine, the students bought a lot of books. They really don't buy the books anymore. It's amazing. I just came from the AU bookstore, recycling the bankers boxes that are worth $2 a piece. It's great. It's obscene. And even there, it's like the whole university is a ghost town, and and I really thought we were really anchored. This store in this location was a separate store, Washington Law and Professional Books, that actually existed from the 75, and we merged with it, bought it in 1991 approximately, and have operated since then. And in about 2010, closed Washington Law and just brought Reiter's here and had the single source. And the whole retail industry has changed, but we have the webpage and we have the books, and like you said, it's extremely unique. We sold nonfiction, and of course medicine was very big, and over the years, environmental studies and mathematics, and I remember when the biggest section in the store was in fact mathematics, and the first blow to the bookstore was sort of like the computer revolution, where a lot of the computer books sort of went from the college bookstore industry and the scholarly industry, which are really only sold in very narrow markets, and the computer book sort of brought that type of book into the mainstream. This all has become a lot of things have become very mainstream, our computer section, but the customer base is just gone. And now we've gone through a pandemic, which is like, it's been apocalyptic. I mean, it was just like overnight, boom.
Yeah, talk more about that.
There's 12,000. And for years we were blessed with the subtenants. That really. Because upstairs is the State Department, and there was they did the emergency photos, and we rented out the back to a photo guy who took photos, and he made a lot of money. And
for folks who aren't sure where we're located, again, we're right here in DC, and very close to the passport office, State Department.
Literally underneath, but
right underneath George Washington University. So that's the scope of things. How did the pandemic sort of impact you? How are things going? We'll get to Amazon.
You can pan up to that sign real quick if you want.
Sure. Oh, the World Bank.
Yeah. Yeah. This was actually the World Bank, and across the street is the World Bank and the IMF that completely was able to just send their workforce home. And they're talking about in June, and the 12 to 15,000 people that represented were the base of the other the cafe every day, espresso, a cigarette out front. They're all European smokers, and some of them would buy books, but they paid the rent. The rent was paid, and I haven't been able to rouse up any support from any area at all. Even my bank won't bother to help me at this point. But people are starting to come out slowly, and I don't think I could pay for what I mean, I haven't been able to pay the rent for, like, they just didn't come back. They're sending 5% back, and then in September they might send another percentage, and I don't think we'll see a full percentage till the end of the year. And we might be done with the pandemic, but the pandemic might, the virus might not be done with us. I mean, the virus is a very real thing, and there's that stubborn edge of idiots in this country. Sorry that
yep.
That's how I feel, that are refusing to get vaccinated to help us, because it's just welling up over on the other side of the world, where it's winter is coming there, and man, if we're not ready for it, it's only 5-6 months away. We're gonna have to get vaccinated again next year.
Right. Yeah, we were just talking right before we went.
Possibly,
started recording that we're all vaccinated, but what about all the folks who won't get vaccinated? And they're already talking about us having to get boosters, etc. Do you feel like the government has done enough to help small businesses? What are your thoughts on that?
They haven't done anything to help us, and we actually, I know it could be a very difficult job, and the impact of small businesses, they talk about 50% of the workforce is part of small businesses, and we haven't gotten anything. They've even abandoned us as we could thrive on the government, just selling stuff to the government. I mean, we were designed to sell the government the books they need to the labs and to the Air Force bases, and we did very well with that, and there was never any overpricing. There was never any problem, but the industry changed and made it a little more difficult, and we spent a lot of effort on selling books to them, and basically the window was that that people who I buy the books from expect me to pay them in 30 to 60 days, and my customer refuses to pay me before 60 and 90 days. And at a certain point, it got caught up with itself. It was simply a month, and like most people are really literally just I act like it and feel like it, that I'm just really like 1 month away from paying the bills or whatever. I haven't drawn in a paycheck, in a long time.
And I have to imagine, this business having been in your family, it has to mean a lot to you.
We we had a great reputation. Yeah, it does mean a lot to me. Even though there's really not much there right now, but there is the essence of it boiling out there, and hopefully we could beef it back up to make it worthy of its, of what it was, because we're definitely not what we were. We really were a great bookstore, and a lot of it had to do with, but we still have a lot of the same uniqueness, and we might, clean it up a little more, and the people might come back. The people have to come back. I need to have the people coming from the World Bank, and the government even. And it would be nice if, one of our biggest area of sales was selling, the environmental impact of what we've done to the world. And that was a core, we were very, knowledgeable in having the various technical books. We rode through the phone revolution and the internet revolution, and we lost the medical revolutions. I mean, we had the great early biotech revolutions, and medicine was really one of our biggest and proudest areas. We stole stethoscopes and everything, and then and over here we had an additional store, which the law. We really had all the law books, and went after law students. There were 5 law schools here, and they were a great mark for many years. And we served them. We stayed open late. We served we gave them the things that the other store couldn't. And I had 3 massive corporations being my competitor, and we did very well against them. But ultimately, just the buying habits of the student couldn't be relied on. We went to the game, right? We're selling this game over there, Warhammer. We're on the webpage, the only place in DC that has it, and that costs a fortune to get involved in. And it's 2 or 3 years of investment, and we just lost a whole year. Maybe this summer we could, because it involved them coming and playing, and buying these models and painting these models, and then us having all the stuff for them. And there's been a cut, and they keep updating and reissuing it, and it's a great thing to be involved with. And hopefully that could come back, on Saturday. You haven't even seen? Were there any other customers since you've been here today?
I don't think so. Not since I've been inside.
Well, it's late for us.
Yes.
We've even been closing around the next hour. But things are coming back. We had a Bristol morning, and we're a little optimistic. And there might be things also that we can get to help us. And when we started our talk about the political situation out there, I mean, I'm just appalled about what goes on. 2 blocks the other way is the White House, and I'm glad things have finally changed, but I'm just still really bewildered that we were able to stoop so low and to go where we went. I mean, that it's atrocious. I don't know. So that's my thoughts for today.
Well, I do have some more questions for you.
Oh, okay.
I'm not going to let you off the hook quite yet. So during this latest trip here to DC, yesterday I was reporting from a protest that folks were holding in front of the BlackRock building. And so BlackRock is a shareholder for Amazon. And what they want is for Amazon to pay their fair share of taxes, to stop funding things that hold minority communities down, etc. There's a very long list, but that's sort of the gist of it.
Just about every social ill in one form or another. And BlackRock has been too. I'm sort of surprised by that, but because I've actually made a lot of money on BlackRock. But well, that's great that they believe in. Well, we're talking about 28%, making them pay 28%. Don't we pay that anyway? Shouldn't we always have paid that? Corporate profits.
Well, that's the thing. Our audience is very, very progressive, and so for this audience, the fact that Amazon pays nothing in taxes in the end, that Amazon now is, just as I was driving over to the protest yesterday, it was announced that Amazon is trying to buy out MGM. They're trying to buy everything. Amazon owns AWS servers. They basically own all of the servers for so many, not all of them, but they own the servers for so many services that people use.
They have is crazy. The power that they've carved out for themselves is beyond anything we've ever imagined. Our laws aren't up to, I mean, it's an entity that really should not be existing. It needs to be taken over, really. I don't want does the government take, I mean, I believe the internet really was, I've been there since the beginning, and it's just really sad almost to see how it became, It's just such an extension of us, really, and it's bizarre, and it's weird, before social media and after. I mean, they're two really different times in people, and we know some of the things that we've done are still going to be creeping up on us, period. That's why our president wants to go hog wild and fix everything. I mean, and he's right. We're talking about the future,
Can you speak on how it makes you feel as a small business owner, as a small bookstore owner, and the other areas of business you're in, that Amazon doesn't have to pay taxes, that Amazon is allowed to get away with all of these things?
It's bizarre. I mean, if we used to joke about it in the beginning when they were growing, and the things that we did, we would joke that if we did what they did, if I stopped paying the taxes and then tried to grow my business and because I knew what to do, and we were even click through before them, and it's abhorrent that I've actually had to pay taxes almost every year, and they don't pay anything, and he should pay, and I do believe in a very progressive tax rate. And once you make a couple $1 million, come on now. And hopefully we'll see that, and hopefully they'll go for this corporate tax rate. I don't think 28% of profits is asking for too much.
Well, and we've been talking about the fact that COVID has been devastating for you as a small business owner, and it's been...
it's put us out, you could put me out of my misery, except,
And this business is so important.
I can't take other people with me.
Well, I found so many books here that I never would have found before. I would show the audience the enormous pile of books that I purchased, but they might make fun of me. It's a huge pile, and I never would have found those books elsewhere. This is truly a DC institution. And the fact that Jeff Bezos and Amazon, going back to Jeff Bezos himself, he's become even wealthier as an individual, and billionaires in general have become even wealthier during the pandemic.
Who made 50 new billionaires, and all those people made, a lot of institutions and corporations and individuals have made fortunes through and we even had some puff of, we sold some masks, and we, tried to contribute, but didn't, basically we gave away alcohol and masks, just paid for it out of our own pocket, to make sure people had them that, surrounded us. But I haven't really had income the last year, it's very little, and I'm not paying taxes on it. It's not worth it, to sell a couple books on Amazon. We just mailed 3 books out. You're our biggest sale of the last month. We get 1 or 2 nice sales like that, and people have come back. I mean, we've had a couple people. I mean, literally, I've had a couple people come in for the last week, daily. And we're taking a couple photos, but that's it, a couple. If it was 30, 40 photos a day, and they really charged a premium. and we've lowered it a little, and we've already served the people that, you know, there was constant haggling and issue about the photos, and ultimately we had to make a big separation because all of a sudden our electronic environment, you know, got mixed with theirs, right? And theirs was nothing but people really blasting them with the most awful complaints, and we're exactly the opposite. You know, we don't have a lot of people, but, you know, greatest bookstore, you know, whatever. It'd be really neat, you know, books that, you know, my type or whatever. And the people were nicer. And we just never had a complaint like that. So we had to invest in Yelp and all these things, time and effort to make the separation. But they didn't survive the pandemic. He decided not to come back. And it may, you know, who knows what's going to happen. They're happy not doing what they did, you know. They think they're above it. They don't want to be treated as just one of the many passport offices. They really just want the post office to do it. And actually, the post office is needing to do something. And we actually have a competitor photo van that could appear out there. So this whole thing, you know, but we're so nice and taking such a good picture that, you know, that might we're willing to fight the photo van. When he first pulled up, it was about year 6 or 7 when this guy was here, really racking it in. We're paying the rent. We're running the bookstores, going, functioning. One day, you know, the photo van pulled up, and they just went at each other like dogs and cats. And the most bizarre competition, the police and fighting, and just, oh my God, you know, and you know, the customer's one that ultimately suffered, but the prices did drop down. You know, they had a price war and everything. It was unbelievable, and I would have probably approached it a little differently, and I might get that opportunity. But we're, you know, we have. He takes the best photos, and I have an old professor, retired gentleman that has helped us out and is willing to help us out in the future. Because ultimately, we would need a couple people back here at least. And I'm chained to here. I want to, you know, ready to go someplace just for at least a couple of weeks.
Yeah. I have just 2 more questions for you.
Okay.
One, so before we got on camera and started this interview, we were talking about, let's just say it, the insanity of Donald Trump and his supporters. But I would say a lot of our progressive audience would probably ask you, do you feel like Joe Biden is going to make a difference? Does he go far enough? People thought maybe we could push Joe Biden more left. Is that going to happen? Will he give
he'll
support?
make some difference. I mean, there's already some difference, I think. But to repair the damage of what happened, I don't even think we realized what the magnitude of the damage. And I think he might. I think that's why he's just, you know, talking about these astronomical issues and these massive sums of money and stuff that are just, I guess, I don't know, scaring these idiot Republicans who I don't really give much credence to anymore. I mean, how could somebody even think of Trump, I mean, as anything? I mean, you know, that's, you know, by the time we get to election period, which I guess is next year, you know, he's probably going to be in court, if not in jail.
Yeah.
I mean, he's you know,
the criminal charges are.
Pay.
I do think that this time the criminal charges are looking like they actually might amount to something.
And then social media uncovering just this unbelievable amount of police brutality against black men. You know, I mean, even 5 years ago, right? It's like, oh man, you know, haven't we heard enough? You know, can't they just say, you know, have a good evening, officer, and drive away? Like every contact I've ever had with them, you know, it was that. Good, thank you for writing me a ticket or whatever, and I drove away. No fear, no nothing. But I understand, you know, that a lot of people are petrified, and not, you know, of the, you know, and the only reason I drove away was because I was white. Period. I know that.
Right.
I know,
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I know that I've, you know, have gained and been protected by white privilege. You know? I mean, that's just so obvious. I'm a child of the inner city. I grew up in Adams Morgan in, you know, in the '60s, and I'm much older than I appear. And you know.
Yeah, you do appear younger than having grown up in the '60s.
I play. We.
So I have JFK questions right now.
Okay.
I'll ask you off camera.
Yeah, it's bizarre, but yeah, those kind of things. You know, yeah, I'm a progressive too, because you know I do know, and I think, yeah, I hope he's going to do what, like you said. I mean, yeah, but I think he needs to do what he said he wants to do, and just run over these Republicans, because the 137 or whatever amount of them that did, you know, or whatever, the 17. I mean, those people should not be even in the Senate. You know, period. I mean, let's get. You know, now they don't want to do the investigation. You know, an independent that's essential. You know, and because we know the shit goes all the way to the top. You know, all they had to do was pop a couple more bullets into somebody, and it would have been all over. And all those poor policemen, it was like they were staring at themselves. But, you know, those people got really ugly and angry really quickly and overwhelmed them and surprised them. But they were looking at themselves, so they hesitated for a minute. But I believe if 2 or 3 more people were killed, it wouldn't have happened. And I know if it was black people, they would have been slaughtered.
Right.
Period. That's what I know now from what I see. And that's just not right, you know, as we sit here, you know. And the government's above us, too. The State Department. Yeah. But hopefully...
Yeah, what's it like having the State Department above you?
Well, it's just a funny part of it. You know, there were multiple buildings of it, and the school is right down there. We're very much part of that. You know, for one of my biggest channels of selling books was going out to places. Wilson Center was probably number one. I mean, it's constantly, we're having people come in and talking about shit who wrote books, and we would just show up, sell 10 or 20 copies. It was never great. Yeah, every once in a while we'd get a big one, but and it was mostly progressive places. It seemed the Cato and the libertarians would always seem to buy the books themselves wholesale and sell them themselves, right? The fucking greedy bastards. And then the real right, Heritage and that kind of shit, I don't know what went on with, they were all publishers anyway, so. Yeah, EPI, all that kind of stuff. We had about, I don't know, 15 different places. We went regular. And went probably Democrats Club. And did that for like 10 or 15 years. It was like we were part of the Wilson Center. You know, we were there 2 or 3 times a week, and you know, and it was seasonal. Like when Congress was here, and school was in business. You know, I'd shave and put a tie and be ready to go, or anybody could do it. Josue did it for many years, and it was a major channel of selling books and of, you know, knowing what's going on and being able to also have derivative sales of the book and the author, and we're definitely slanted also in what, you know, you're probably not going to find much Hannity or
no. Well, I think you kind of have to be, especially these days. My last question is more of a fun one, perhaps. This is a DC institution, your store, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of very powerful faces in here. Do you have any favorite stories or interesting stories that you could share with us?
There should be a few. I mean, I have actually been and have been with some, you know, we have had some really high-end people, a lot of not even heard of, like, you know, Page's father was a customer from Harvard, the guy that Googled, and
Larry Page. Mm-hmm.
yeah, his father came in, and the guy from Stanford. They actually Bill O'Reilly was a customer. He worked at McKinsey, and went on, took his Unix and developed the internet with it, right? And
You've mentioned off camera you've had some
Alvin
media
Toffler
folks.
was a standard, was a regular. Whenever he was in town, he would come, and I had developed over 20 or 30 years a relationship with him. But I was friends with a Reagan era spy that I'm sure they threw him off the roof of the Watergate if he didn't just jump to suicide.
Can you say a name or no?
Gus Weiss, I guess. Yeah. Actually, I have like these notes from. I'd love to publish. I don't know if the NSA would say, "Come and get me," but he was up there with him. In the years that we knew him, he was completely bonkers and had a minder. And I think he was probably gay. And he had a minder. He couldn't be let. This was like 80s and 90s. And the FBI would come to the store. The Russians would come, and then the FBI would come, and my mother would say, "Oh, we can't tell you we're not going to tell you, them what you buy," and they would leave, and then the wall fell, and the guy showed up again, the whatever he was, it was the probably the station chief for the KGB, and he would come and flirt with my mother, but they had a long 20 or 30 year relationship. Or the general from Pakistan, what was it? Do you remember his name, Josue? From the Congressional Budget Office? Babaradar! Babaradar!
Yeah, I forgot.
He was like a Pakistani war hero that, he was Pakistani and sounded like a goddamn Pakistani general and acted like one, and I think he was one. He was the librarian at the CBO. There's stories like that.
That's fascinating.
A lot of different people have come in. And, shoplifting stories.
Oh no.
New York Times.
And you were saying, like people like Jake Tapper might wander in, like just folks who are out and about.
Other journalists like you should be in here, and I have had a couple of the big faces from CNN walk through.
Sure.
All of them are published, and I have most of their books. And you mentioned Brian Seltzer, who I think is great. And I have to watch all those guys all weekend. And I have other books, but we'll see what it's bizarre what our biggest and only channel right now is. I mean, I get occasionally government orders some medical books to Walter Reed. They used to buy, I don't know, $50,000 a year. The Pathology Institute and. Two big different divisions of Walter Reed, because they are a pioneer in building, because we go to war all the fucking time. They learn how to build arms and legs.
Yeah. Wow. Jeez. That is very, very interesting. It's certainly a very storied place, and that's something you can't get from Amazon. It was all this history and.
And we do have a few bookstores in D.C. There's a whole spate in the last few years that have crushed. I'm afraid what's his name has become the powerhouse, though, and will keep any other bookstore from being able to survive Politics and Prose. They're great. They help me. They'll give me books, whatever. If it gets that bad, which it can, some of the publishers have cut me off, and. Being able to go there and buy books at whatever. And the whole industry is bizarre, and Amazon's a big part of it. It's like playing a game, really, with Amazon. And their attention to books also is waning, and it's also getting lost in this mire of algorithms. And I can't imagine, all the web cloud servers that they sell, they probably need just as much for themselves,
right?
To make this work. But it's in now there's what the fuck? There's an Amazon truck driving around the block.
Yes.
I mean, driving around wherever I go.
Yeah.
You know, in my house, at my daughter's house. I mean, that is just, you know, I mean, many publishers were very afraid of this vertical integration, you know, and because Amazon's not really a manufacturer, but they have, you know, they are a retailer. It's
Right.
bizarre.
Yep. Any last words you have for folks, and tell people where and how to find you if they happen to be in the DC area?
Well, Reiter's books, right at the corner of 19th and G, Northwest, 2 blocks from the White House, a block from GW. It's an old World Bank building. It's actually the State Department right now, and just in the Pennsylvania Avenue area. This is, you know, probably our 4th or 5th location. I was actually looking at a brand new building that when we made our first big move, I might have been 12 years old, my mom and dad, or my dad maybe, they moved across the street from the old next to the Circle Theater, and it then became the Inner Circle, a beautiful theater that's gone the way of beautiful theaters.
Yeah.
And we carried the books across the street to a brand new building and had the bookstore. This was about 1971, and then I think in 72, it was about when my mother and father bought it. And my mother went to work, and it was, you know, a completely different bookstore. And we were there for 15 years, and then moved to K Street, where we had been for 20 years, and now we've been here for about 10 years. And Washington Law was here. We took over in 92, and it might have actually been built, I think he moved in 75. And the building was the World Bank, and it will turn into GW owns the land, and who knows what's going to happen, and who knows what's going to happen with us. I definitely can't pay the rent that I used to pay, and the rent that they probably expect. So we'll see what happens.
Do you do any online orders?
Yeah, we have a whole web page. I mean, that's what Amazon was about. We took three books to the 3 packages to the mail.
Selling through their merchant services. So what is
We're
your...
all 3 Amazon? 3 different accounts too, right?
Yes, so far.
That's good.
Today, 3 for
That's
today.
great.
Yeah.
What's your website so people can...
Writers.
Check it
Writers books are and you could I guess you can go from there to Amazon, but to see the list. But we have our page is fully stocked. It's an indie commerce site. Writers books. Here, flash of that. Here you go.
Yeah,
That's
let's put that
everything
right
you
up
need.
there. So reiters.com, or you can email with any questions, books@reiters.com.
Excellent. That was Albert
Wonderful.
Reiter. He was from New York City College, and just was, you know, from another world. Yeah, cigars. And when I started, this was another world. There was a bunch of fat white guys with cigars on Saturday in the bookstore. You know, it was, you know, we've gone through a lot of changes in, you know, physics and, you know, guys that would come from the Naval Research Lab and the Naval Ordnance Lab and just all those places, the Army, and you know, there was a lot going on in this area, and we've had the, you know, the tech, we had the multiple revolutions that we were able to sell books into, and you know, and going out and selling books was a big thing, and they have mastered that at our competitors too. But ours dried up during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And then now it's all been replaced by the streaming and Zoom, and you know, we're not sure how to position ourselves in there. You know,
You'll have to start a streaming channel and
Well,
talk to people about your history. People would watch for sure. It'd be cool.
I need to figure out something else to do along the lines with our social media.
Well, we wish you the best of luck. This is absolutely fascinating. I love it. I'm, as I said, addicted to books. I think this is a wonderful place. There are books here you can't find anywhere else. And I really thank you so much for your time, and I urge everybody to check you out.
Glad to have met you. It's
Thanks
great.
so much.